Josh Harris has only been on the job as Washington's new owner and managing partner 1 calendar year and already has a laundry list of improvements, upgrades, and a mess cleanup from the 25-year disastrous and nightmare tenure of owner Dan Snyder. Adam Peters has been on the job for about 7 or 8 months. Nicki Jhabvalas of the Washington Post just put out an excellent article chronicling just how awful Washington Stadium, Washington staff, Washington's team headquarters, just how awful the conditions all of them were left. It's perplexing. It's the stuff that's made for a HBO Max documentary and a high budget dramatized biopic one day when they make the movie on Dan Snyder. There's a tall task out for the new guys to get shit right in DC, but let's talk about it. We're going to go into detail about Nicki Jhabvalas' article, all the changes Josh Harris, Adam Peters, and even players are suggesting and they're implementing in Ashburn and Landover. Let's talk about it. I'm Rio Robinson. Let's get to it. Just scrolling my timeline on a Saturday afternoon, a Saturday morning, getting ready to watch some college football today. And Nicki Jhabvalas posts an article on X, and I see the 3 headlining tidbits from the article, and they read, the Ashburn training facility that opened in 1992. It lacked the appropriate meeting space for coaches and players, had no area for players to decompress. The athletic training staff was small and struggled to accommodate the full roster, forcing many players to seek outside specialists for their rehab from injuries and for various treatments. I remember then Coach Rivera came to me and said, this is literally a true story. We don't have a clock on the field, on the practice field, so that Sam Howell can see how many seconds are left in practice or in each situational drill that they run. And Harris responded, like, why are y'all even asking? Of course. I mean, even high school teams have that. And the last excerpt that she dropped as like a teaser to her article, it says, if you had seen the building before, the O-line room was way down the hallway, Adam Peters said. You had to walk past 4 departments, and when you got there, it was like a hodgepodge of tables and chairs. It was not even Division III worthy. These are the words of new managing partner and owner Josh Harris and new general manager Adam Peters. This doesn't even get into the legal issues, the stealing money from your minority owners, the using the team's $4 million to slap a logo on your jet, the sexual misconduct allegations that actually some name Dan Snyder specifically, the mistreatment of employees for so many years. It doesn't even go into all of that. This is the physical embodiment of letting your stadium rot, letting your team headquarters rot. And Nicki goes into quite detail. And for some fans, it's jarring. Some fans are not like myself in the DMV. So they have not got the chance to get to training camp, to watch them practice at training camp, to get out to a game at formerly FedEx and Commanders Field, now titled Northwest Federal Stadium. But I promise you didn't miss out on much. There wasn't much happening on the field, and they've been absolute bush league when it comes to architecture, when it comes to quality, when it comes to fan experience. We've been last place for quite some time, and Josh Harris, after receiving that grade from the NFLPA last year, said, I'm not an F- kind of guy. But let's get into it. Let's talk about it, because Dan Snyder, it is such a tall task he left anybody that preceded him here in DC. So while fans, we want to see change, and we're starving for it. On the field, off the field, we want a new venue. We want a new team headquarters. We want new everything. They have quite a task at cleaning up the mess of the worst owner in pro sports history. But let's get into it, though. Adam Peters, I'm getting into Nicki Jhabvalas' article. Absolutely good. You might go through a paywall for whatever reason. They let me see the whole article. So we're going to talk about the entire article because she covered a whole lot of shit in this article. With Adam Peters, the Commanders' newly appointed general manager, he was only days into his job, and it was late January after one of the area's most significant snowstorms. The blanket of white covered the practice fields. They started to recede and show the facility's true, she said, colors. Holy shit, Adam Peters said. What is that thing? The team's director of football operation, he rushed over from his office, and there was a snake in Adam Peters' office. After all, the team does have a resident black snake that slithers around the fields and neighboring trees. She said, what is this? Oh, you didn't know. We've got to get rid of this thing. He's talking about the practice field. He's talking about it. And the truth was that he saw the blue-green artificial turf practice field, but he'd only seen it in pictures before. He had just realized that that turf was more than 30 years old and had the team's former logo buried beneath a plastic covering. It was just that nasty ass side field. They finally got rid of it after all these years. For more than 2 decades, this team has been awful. They've lost on the field. They've lost off the field. We couldn't even be trash in peace. We've heard about every single thing connected to this franchise. We are the strongest soldiers in the NFL for still being loyal and remaining here. Harris was tasked with evaluating the roster, the staff, the facilities, and she says, according to nearly 24 people who spoke to the Washington Post in the last year and a half, Josh Harris and his partners, they discovered many aspects of the franchise were so much worse than expected. Josh Harris, quote unquote, I tend to be unemotional about financial decisions, but here it was more emotional. And they got here, and man, oh man, did they have to make some changes immediately. They've already spent over $100 million 1 year into the job just to make this stadium a fixer-upper until we're able to get in our new venue. He wants us to be in our new venue by 2030. We may be looking at 8 years. We may be looking at 2032 by the time they get there. And it was a full-scale operation. They're trying to get tickets sold. They're trying to rebuild the stadium. They're trying to make conditions better for players. About the ticket sales, we've been one of the last teams in the league for tickets for quite some time. The legal entanglement with ticket brokers who purchased a chunk of season tickets and then flipping them to the opposing fans. Josh Harris said, yeah, we're not trying to do all that. We're trying to unravel it. You really don't want huge swaths of tickets being taken. There were some contractual issues. We're dealing with all of it. Leaks and faulty pipes were almost a weekly occurrence. You know the joke we hear about toilet water and shit raining on fans. There was even a leak in front of the owner's suite above a seating section owned by some of Josh Harris's partners. Those seats had a contingency. They were usable only when it wasn't raining. I repeat, there were leaks and faulty pipes outside of an owner's suite owned by some of the partners of Josh Harris. And the contingency was that they could only be used while it's raining. We're talking about a team that just got flipped for $6 billion. We're talking about the NFL Shield. We're talking about a global phenomenon of an organization and what used to be one of the flagships of the league. That's what it's come to. Raining shit pipes in the stadium, even outside of the owner's suite. Man. In week 11 last year, the stadium's water heater broke during a loss to the New York Giants. It left players without hot water in the locker room. The railings were off. They're often an issue as well. Even one railing, we almost watched Jalen Hurts' career end when a railing fell down, fans collapsed, and they almost stampeded Jalen Hurts when the Philadelphia Eagles were coming here. Man. Only here in DC. Only here. We're not even the oldest stadium in the league, but only here in DC do you see that type of bullshit and ineptitude. The training park, Ortho Virginia Training Center at Commanders Park, formerly Redskins Park. You already know what that is. The stadium dry. I mean, the grass is dry. It's ugly. The building is weak as hell. They tried their best to make it look good on camera for the Commanders log and shit, but it looks like it looks like you're watching an episode of The Office when you see them shoot shit out of the team facilities. But there are now play clocks on the practice field. There are now working dryers, and there are now hot tubs in the equipment and recovery room. Let's clap it up for that. We shouldn't have to clap it up for this, guys. This should be normal business practices. Jesus Christ. Washington has a home opener tomorrow versus the New York Football Giants. Wale's performing at halftime. They're going to be rolling out all types of new stuff in the stadium, new eateries, new processes in contactless purchase to be made throughout the stadium. All types of new stuff's being rolled out. It allowed us to upgrade the premium areas and lead to some return on investment. You know, they got to recoup and make some of that money back while they're trying to fix up this thing to lock in a deal for the new venue. They've had little time to make these things, but they prepared a 50-page syllabus pretty much to plan in-game enhancements to better the fan experience for fans, including giveaways, halftime entertainment. They rented out speakers to ensure they're able to get some installed quickly before the owners ultimately purchased an entire new sound system. They added frictionless weapon detectors at some stadium gates last season. Now they are at every gate in 2024. Touchless food and beverage markets throughout the stadium. The parking lots were resurfaced. The traffic flow is being redirected, and there's new paint all around the stadium. New floors all around the stadium in the main concourse. 72 new terrace tables on the club level, and new food options, including the $30, matter of fact, $29 Raise Hell loaded nachos. They look good, but ain't no nachos in the world worth $30. But I see what you're trying to do, Josh Harris. Make your money. They do look very good. I believe I saw Nicki and a couple people post a picture of them from the preseason game. They look appetizing, but $30 for nachos, they better be made by the hands of an angel. There better be a halo, and there better be a friend that can sit next to me and watch the football game with me for $30 for some nachos. But cook, my boy. You got to make some money out that shit stadium. You got to recoup, because this franchise, they've been bad at business. They've been bad at football. They've been bad at not football. They've been bad at just about everything since Daniel Snyder took over in 1999. So I'm happy and excited just that we're practicing normal business habits now in 2024. And fans can be fans of just a football team again. But they removed the Sean Taylor Memorial that everybody hated, that drew significant criticism. And Harris said, I wanted to make sure he had a first-class memorial, first-class exhibit. If y'all didn't see, Jackie Taylor, Sean's daughter, was on the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark and Channing Crowder and Fred Taylor yesterday. Brought me to absolute tears, had me sobbing on a Friday evening. Make sure y'all check that out. But they want to do right by the family. They want to do right by Jackie Taylor and company. I don't know about y'all, but I think maybe they should wait to install the Sean Taylor Memorial statue at the new venue, because I don't know how it goes. Let me know, you construction architecture type people. If we put a memorial at Northwest Stadium, can we just pick that shit up and take it to the new venue? How does that work? How does that work? Can you just take it? Can you just detach it and kind of just oop it to the next stadium? I don't know how that works, but it's going to look significantly better. And Josh Harris and them, they care, and they want to continue this eradication of everything Dan Snyder's fingerprints touched while he was the owner of this football team. He's already invested just about $80 million into the stadium. And it seems like much of it was a sunk cost, because the team plans to leave both in the coming years. We got some stuff to do. They made the Tunnel Club, which was built out of a former storage room, a wasted storage room. Through ownership transition, the team has sold more than 10,000 new season tickets, which is a 30% increase from year to year. They are trying their damnness. The Tunnel Club, the 1932 club, they're using former business offices, sales offices. Close to 700 seats were added to the stadium, bringing its capacity to approximately 63,000. They're trying. They're trying, guys. F plus. He said he's not an F plus kind of guy. Was it an F plus or an F minus? Regardless, it's F adjacent. And he said, I didn't know you could get an F minus when it came to things like that. So Josh Harris is learning something new every day on the job here in DC. He and Mitchell Rales, they've held roundtable discussions with the team's leaders about the state of the franchise. They want to hear from the players directly. What stinks here? What would you like to be improved here? What would you like to be implemented to make your jobs, your lives, and your family's lives easier here in DC? It was really just like an open forum for us to express the things that have gone on here and how we can see things improve, says veteran wide receiver Terry McLaurin. But I love to hear that they're taking advice. They're taking credence from the players because they're listening, guys. Jeremy Reeves said it's a fresh start. When I came back for training camp this year, I came back to a different team. The building changed. The coaches changed. There's a little bit of everything. They got rid of everybody. We're coming in with all new football stuff, but we know about the football stuff. This off the field stuff, the facility, Peters was so excited to show Andrew Wiley the new offensive line room. He said he was walking to the building one day, and man, these type of things we should never have to hear about when it comes to a football team. Jesus Christ, man. They agreed to an 8-year deal with Northwest Federal Credit Union that runs through 2031. And is already worth more annually than the final 2 years of the previous partnership with FedEx Field. Harris said the Commanders hope to be in their forever home, their new home in 2030. It's a realistic target, but the process is out of its control now. We all know what they're doing. They're waiting for government to do its thing. They're waiting for the RFK site. And the RFK Stadium bill that would allow for a new stadium and accompanying mixed-use development on federal land at the RFK Stadium site. It passed the House of Representatives and has not yet made its way through the Senate for approval, but Harris believes if it does pass, it won't be until after the election in November. Not to make it political, but we're going to have to wait till this shit show election finishes to hear more about what's going on. Roger Goodell wants it in D.C. Elected officials want it in D.C. The owners want it in D.C. Most of the fans want it back, and its forever home needs to be where the glory days took place back at RFK Stadium. I expect the Superdome to be there. They're just going to wait for it. We're going to see how long it takes, but until then, we have an 8-year naming rights stadium. They're going to fix up Northwest Stadium to be something fans are proud of going forward. But these are just some of the Bush League things and condition Dan Snyder left this team in. He didn't take into factor his players, the front office, his minority owners, or anybody. He just ran this team like a blind degenerate and like it was a toy of his. Like, look at me, I own a football team. He grew up a lifelong fan and continued to hate his franchise for 25 years. And Josh Harris, Mitchell Rales, Magic Johnson, and company are here to steward in a era of competence, of adequacy, of business-minded on and off the field development. And we should be excited as we go into our home opener for 2024, a concert tomorrow, a new parking process, new stuff everywhere, new paint, new floors, new tunnel clubs, and all these new things. Ultimately, what matters is Adam Peters' job, which is selecting football players to win on Sundays. But when you follow this football team, it's a lot deeper than that. It goes a lot deeper rooted than just what happens on Sundays. We want to be competent on and off the field, but the process has begun. Almost $200 million has already been poured back into the organization. And while some people say, well, duh, that's what you're supposed to do. Tell Dan Snyder that as he sits on his yacht on the Mediterranean with $6 billion in his pocket for a team he bought for under $1 billion back in 1999. a team that he neglected, a team that he ignored, and a team that he let rot what used to be and sullied the name of a former flagship of this league. Shout out to Josh Harris and company as they try to put back all the pieces, put that pulse and heartbeat back into a starving fan base, and kick shit off in the 2024 season. It didn't start the prettiest week one. We get to bounce back versus a divisional rival tomorrow versus the New York Giants. Shout out to Nicki Jhabvalas of the Washington Post for writing such a detailed and jarring article about all of the changes that have already taken place here in DC. That's all I got for right now. Let's get it, y'all. Game day is tomorrow. We're one day away. We got to get over this Daniel Jones hump, and I think we're going to do so. That's all I got for right now. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Stay liked up, commented up, and subscribe to the channel. Bleed burgundy and gold until the end of you, and keep fighting because better days soon await us. I'm out.